Like other seminal works, your book, In Search of Self-Governance, is short, a concise 76 pages. What's been the reaction thus far?
Well, we've had a real positive reaction to it, and mainly because people are tired of hearing about how polarized the American public is. Basically, the American people are united. They think that the political system is broken, most politicians are corrupt, and that the leaders of both political parties are clueless about what's needed. And then whenever I make that presentation, people instantly say, yeah, that's what we're hearing all around us.
It struck me that much of the book is based on observations and impressions you've had over the course of many years and not necessarily based on just recent polls. How long has the book been in development?
You know, I've been polling for 15 years, and all of that goes into the book. I didn't put polling data in the book because really nobody cares about polls. They care about the end results and what it means. And the idea for the book itself has been growing in the last few years. In 2006 and 2008, independent voters voted against the party in power. It happened again in 2009, even though the party in power changed. And there's been a growing frustration around the country, and it just seemed there needed to be something, something said about it to try and put it in a little bit of context.
You blame both Bush and Obama for pushing through bailouts that are, quote, ignoring overwhelming public consensus in the process. Has this served as a tipping point in the electorate, and what are the ramifications?
The bailouts were a huge issue and remain a huge issue. Number one, they're a fiscal issue. Deficits are huge and growing, and people are very concerned about that. A year ago, President Obama declared his primary budget objectives. One of them was to reduce the deficit. The others were related to health care and energy and education. And from the beginning, people said deficits were number one. But the bailouts were more than just a fiscal issue. They really got to the basic fairness of the way the system is supposed to work. The American people think if you serve somebody well as a business, you should grow and prosper and make profits, and if you fail, you should go out of business. Now they tend to believe that that most of us have to play by one set of rules, but large corporations can keep the money when things are good, get bailed out by government when they're not. And one of the impacts that we've seen from this is that people no longer think that capitalism has anything to do with free markets. People tend to believe now that capitalism means, again, the taxpayers bail out the companies that fail and give money to the people who create the problems.
You stated, quote, America is a bright beacon of liberty and hope for the entire world, though you noted the common ground of Americans is frustration with the current political dialogue. Is that bright beacon diminishing, or is it on the return?
It really depends on where we go from here. Americans, really liked the idea of hope when Barack Obama talked about it. We need to restore some hope and bring about some change. Unfortunately, people in Washington think that means the politicians have to take charge and change the direction of the country. If we continue to follow that path of shifting more power and more governance to the political class, well, then our bright beacon of liberty will go out. On the other hand, if we can restore that sense of self-governance, where government plays an important role, but it's a supporting role, if that can be restored and we can rely on the American people to bring about change, then the nation will continue to be a great inspiration for the world for the next century and beyond.
I was fascinated with the section in the book regarding Americans' innate sense of self-governance and our voluntary participation in civic organizations. You referred to it as an incredible level of civic involvement. How does this work undergird self-governance?
Well, again, when you start to think about what does it mean to govern a society, we're all governed by different things. People's opinions of you play a role in terms of how you handle yourself, and that can be true whether it's your spouse or a friend or somebody you work with. Some of the things that we do when you walk into a group or a meeting, you quickly learn who are the people that can get things done. Those opinions have helped you make those organizations more effective. We put limits on what is acceptable, not because something is just illegal, but because we know what the kind of actions it will, the kind of response it will bring from others. Sometimes people who believe in the free market underestimate how big the market is. It's not just about dollars and cents. There is a market in reputation. There is a market in other areas, and we all respond to different initiatives. And those are the things that really change the way a society works. I gave some examples in the book talking about the civil rights movement. There's other examples throughout history where formal government action took place only after public attitudes had changed.
You've observed that there's an elite view of self-governance now that diminishes its meaning to little more than voters choosing between which two politicians will rule over them. Is this more prevalent at the local or federal level?
The attitude is most prevalent at the federal level, and it's primarily because there has come to be this view in Washington, D.C., that we, the federal government, are responsible for solving all the problems. I mean, right now, the Justice Department is taking a look at how we select the #1 football team in the nation in the college football rankings. I mean, this is ludicrous. The notion that government should be making all those decisions is something that serves the elite well. It's something that makes the people who are making the decisions feel very important, and it's also something that disenfranchises the vast majority of the American people.
Your premise in the book is obviously self-governance. Have you received pushback or criticism thus far?
You know, some people say, what does self-governance mean? Does it mean more initiatives? And some people don't like the initiative process. My favorite pushback came from someone who said, self-governance sounds great, but the American people are too stupid to govern themselves. So there is an attitude out there among some that that shouldn't be happening. But almost all of the pushback has come from people who are missing the main point. And that is, when we talk about a self-governing society, we're talking about something that is bigger than government itself. It's not just the formal politics and who wins an election and what policies people pursue. Most of the self-governing activities in a society like ours take place far outside the halls of power. It's individuals making choices about their own lives. It's individuals working together with their neighbors to help things in a community. And it's individuals who are managing businesses and regulating businesses by patronizing those that serve them well and avoiding those that don't.
Why is this so dangerous or un-American, if you will?
Well, dangerous and un-American are two different aspects. The reason it's un-American is because our nation was founded on the notion of self-governance, that the government should play this supporting role and let people make individual decisions. That's been our heritage. I mentioned in the book how Alexis de Tocqueville observed that when he came to America early in the 19th century, he was struck by how in Europe you would go to a noble or to a government to get some community activity done, and here in America, neighbors got together and did things on their own. So that's why it's un-American. In terms of being dangerous, there is simply no way that anybody in a governing position, in a formal government power, can make all the subtle distinctions in a society that is changing all the time. We talk about media rules right now that are still being debated in Congress as if there were 3 television networks and the internet hadn't come around, and all of it seems almost irrelevant in the way that society is changing.